Welcome to Time of Death. This video is for informational purposes and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murders of Jose Martinez and his brother Samuel Martinez. Both were shot and killed on Saturday, September 25, 2010, in the 2900 block of Division Street in Cypress Park, according to LA County Coroner records. Albert Arzate and Johnny Mendoza were subsequently arrested and charged with various crimes, including the murders. The following is the evidence at trial. Both defendants are members of the Cypress Park criminal street gang, a comparatively small gang that was at war with its larger rival gang, the Avenues. Cypress Park claimed as its territory an area surrounded by territory claimed by the Avenues. This case arose from three separate incidents. The first two on the night of September 24 until the early morning hours of September 25, 2010, and the third on January 22, 2011. Defendants were close friends of fellow gang member Gustavo Husky Flores, who was incarcerated at the time of these crimes. Flores had a child with the assault victim, April. April was a friend of defendant Mendoza's and an acquaintance of defendant Arzate. Lillian, who had previously had romantic relationships with both defendants, was a friend of April's, as was Cecilia, who was romantically involved with defendant Arzate at the time of these offenses. On the night of September 24, 2010, April and Lillian went to visit their friend Alejandra, who lived on Granada Street, an area within the territory claimed by Cypress Park. Alejandra lived with her boyfriend Frank, who was a friend of defendants and Mr. Flores. The residence was the third of three houses on one parcel of land. Defendants arrived at the residence while April was on the porch with her 3-month-old baby. Defendant Mendoza had a shotgun on his side inside his pants, visible to April. Defendant Arzate asked April about Mr. Flores and then went inside the residence. April heard him referring to her as a noodle lover, a disparaging term referring to the Avenues gang, and saying that she was cheating on Mr. Flores with an Avenues gang member. April and defendant Arzate then had a heated argument. Defendants left the house and started walking up the path toward Granada Street, and April followed them, still arguing with defendant Arzate. April was about 3 feet behind defendants and turning a corner on the pathway when defendant Arzate pointed a shotgun at her, about 1 inch away from her face, cocked the gun and said, "Now what, bitch?" The noise of cocking the gun scared April. Defendant Mendoza was next to defendant Arzate, and April asked defendant Mendoza how could he let him do that to her. Defendant Mendoza didn't reply, and both defendants left, walking toward Isabel Street, which intersects with Granada Street. The murders and attempted murders occurred on Division Street, the main thoroughfare of the Avenues gang territory, about 10 blocks away from the house on Granada Street where April was assaulted. On the night of September 24, 2010, Marvin and the Martinez brothers, his cousins, walked from the Martinez home to a liquor store on the corner of Division Street and Eagle Rock Boulevard. Marvin had had 1 beer that night. After they made their purchases, they were walking back along Division Street, across the street from a market, the Super A, in the early morning hours of September 25, 2010. They passed the pharmacy and came to some houses in the area. They were walking on a sidewalk in a line, with Jose Martinez a few steps ahead of Marvin, just behind his cousins. 2 males popped out of the darkness. It appeared to Marvin that they popped out behind the wall by the driveway. Marvin was surprised and in shock. The 2 males were facing Marvin and his cousins and said, "Where you from?" a gang-related term known to Marvin, who grew up and went to school with gang members. Marvin heard one of his cousins scream out no. He saw what he thought was a shotgun pointed in their direction and ran to his left side towards the street just trying to get away. He heard 3 or 4 gunshots and tried to hide by a car, but he was hit, bleeding and in pain. He lay on the ground and screamed out for help, screaming out, "It hurts, I can't breathe." His whole chest hurt. He had been shot in the back and suffered injuries to his liver, ribs, abdomen, chest, and internal bleeding, and had 2 surgeries. His cousins were dead, both shot in the head, one of them twice, from a distance ranging between a few inches to 3 or 4 feet. At about 12:52 a.m. on September 25, 2010, police officers driving southbound on Division Street came upon the crime scene, described by one of the officers as the most gruesome crime scene he had ever seen. They also saw a security guard running toward them on Division Street, pointing in a southerly direction and gesturing as if someone had just fled the location. They called for additional officers, an ambulance, an airship, and other support. 4 expended shotgun shells were recovered from the scene, all fired from the same shotgun. Meanwhile, as April and Cecilia were talking in the car that night, Cecilia was getting phone calls. Defendant Mendoza called Cecilia, and April heard parts of the conversation. According to April, defendant Mendoza said, "Come pick me up," and April started to hear helicopters and police sirens. When Cecilia asked defendant Mendoza why and what happened, defendant Mendoza said, "Cause we got into some shit, come pick me up." According to Cecilia, when defendant Mendoza called her on the night of the murders, she put the call on speakerphone, said hello, and asked him why he was calling. Defendant Mendoza told her that Albert needed to be picked up. He needed a ride, and he was on Division Street because he had just got into some shit. She understood that to mean it was some type of trouble. Defendant Mendoza told Cecilia that he was on Isabel Street, and when she asked where on Isabel, he didn't know. When she was on the phone with defendant Mendoza, Cecilia heard sirens and a helicopter, and defendant Mendoza said that police were everywhere. Cecilia did not pick up defendants. She went home. She said she didn't want to pick them up. Cecilia heard about the murders the next day. She had a telephone conversation with defendant Arzate that day, told him that she had heard about the 2 murders on Division Street, right across the street from the market, and told him that everybody already knew about it in the neighborhood. Defendant Arzate replied that that was them. When asked who did he say was them, Cecilia said him and Johnny. Defendant Arzate said that's why they were trying to stay low, and that Johnny was being scared and he didn't want to come out of his house. On January 22, 2011, about 4 months after the murders, April was driving home with her brother, Lillian, and another friend, Christine. She turned into her driveway and told her brother to get out and open the gate. At the same time, defendants and 2 other Cypress Park gang members, Gabriel Estrada and Johnny Little Boy Medina, approached on foot. Defendant Arzate said, "Shut up, bitch." April said, "Hey, this is my house." And defendant said, "This is my hood, shut the fuck up, stupid bitch." Defendant then slapped her on the face. April's brother got out of the car to defend his sister, and defendant hit him in the face with a closed fist. April said she was gonna call the cops, and defendant said, "Call the fucking cops, bitch. The cops ain't got shit on me. Do something, bitch." April told defendant to leave, and he responded, "It's alright, I'll kill you, bitch, you're dead." As he was walking away, defendant lifted up his shirt, displaying a Cypress Park gang tattoo on his stomach. The next day, police arrested defendant Arzate for making criminal threats. A special agent for the FBI conducted an analysis of cell phone records and cell tower locations, and concluded that defendant Mendoza's cell phone moved from an area consistent with the Granada Street residence at 11:44 p.m. to an area consistent with the location of the murders at 11:51 p.m., and the call he placed at 12:54 a.m. was placed from an area consistent with the murder scene. At the preliminary hearing in March 2013, Marvin identified both defendants and testified that defendant Arzate was the armed assailant. Both defendants were charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Following the trial, the jury convicted defendants Albert Arzate and Johnny Mendoza of the first-degree murders of Samuel and Jose Martinez, the attempted murder of Marvin, and assault with a firearm on April. The jury also convicted defendant Arzate of making criminal threats against April and found true various gun and gang allegations. The court sentenced defendant Arzate and defendant Mendoza, who was 17 at the time of the crimes, to state prison for terms that included 2 consecutive sentences of life without the possibility of parole. Jose Martinez was 24 years old at the time of death. Samuel Martinez was 20 years old at the time of death.